The College Football 25 trailer has taken the internet by storm. People breaking down every single frame of the trailer, trying to understand every detail about the gameplay and what to expect in one of the most anticipated video games of all time. But what I'd like to look at today is something a little deeper than that. Based on the gameplay they've showed us, what predictions did the devs make for the upcoming season? What frame-by-frame evidence do we have for how they think next season, the season after, and the future of college football will play out? Today we're going to do that, and we're going to split those predictions into three categories. The first category, confirmed predictions, things that EA straight up showed evidence of, and they're predicting to happen either next season or in the future. Next is going to be likely predictions, things that we can kind of infer a little bit based off the evidence that seem more likely than not. And then the last is just going to be straight up speculation, giant leaps in judgment based off of what we've been shown. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the trailer opens with some establishing shots, some shots of teams walking out of the locker room, LSU, Florida, Boston College, Clemson walking by Howard's Rock. There's not a lot we can take away from those first establishing shots. The first one that gives us anything to work with is Alabama versus Texas A&M. It shows us a shot of A&M's crowd getting up, getting loud. The score is 0-0, and there's 6 minutes left in what looks like the first quarter. Now, this isn't groundbreaking. This is definitely very small, but this is something. That's a prediction. That game will be tied with 6 minutes left in the first quarter by the devs. Now, right after that, we get one that's a pretty good prediction. It shows Penn State, it's the whiteout, and on the scoreboard, you can clearly see Penn State versus Ohio State. So there's the first big prediction. Penn State versus Ohio State will be the whiteout game in 2024. Let's get to another confirmed prediction. App State versus Wyoming. It shows the kickoff in this game, and it's 7-0 Cowboys in what looks like it could be the second quarter. Now, this one's really interesting because this game is not on the schedule. Yes, the game was played last season between App State and Wyoming. However, App State led 6-0 early in that game, so it can't be that game because Wyoming has the lead here in this game. And it can't be a bowl game either. This isn't a matchup late in the season like them matching up in the Potato Bowl or the New Mexico Bowl. So this could be a pretty interesting prediction here that either App State joins the Mountain West or Wyoming joins the Sun Belt in the future, because Wyoming has their non-conference schedule set through 2028 right now, and all those players aren't going to be there in 2029. So it's actually a reasonable and confirmed prediction that Wyoming and App State are going to somehow be in the same conference together very soon. I'm just now noticing, actually, on the Wyoming-App State game, the second it switches angles, the score switches from 7-0 Wyoming to 14-0 App State. So a really interesting development here, and I think further evidence that they'll be in the same conference, because that's them playing again. And you might be thinking, well, maybe that one is the one they played last season. It isn't, because App State had 12 points. They scored in bunches of 6. They never had 14 at any point. So a really interesting wrinkle here in the trailer that just adds even more fuel to the fire of the theory of these two being in the same conference. This next clip is one that doesn't seem very interesting, but gets more interesting the more you think about it. It shows Donovan Edwards stiff-arming an Ohio State defender. However, this is clearly a game where Michigan is the home team. The Wolverines don't host Ohio State in 2024. They host them in 2025, meaning that this game is 2025, and Donovan Edwards is still on the squad. So a prediction by EA that Donovan Edwards will return for the 2025 season, which leads us to maybe assume that Michigan's going to have a successful season. Next, we have the clip of Syracuse running a trick play versus Virginia. If you pause at the right moment, you can clearly see the Virginia font, some hints of their orange and blue. So it's clearly Virginia, and it's at home for Syracuse. They don't host Virginia until 2028, and Kyle McCord is still playing in this clip. So if this was 2028, this would be his 8th season playing college football, meaning he'd have to go through a ton of injuries in the next couple years and get a bunch of gray shirts and red shirts to play a game. Same with LaQuint Allen and Zede Haynes, who are also featured in this clip. So it's likely that that's not the case. This isn't a game in 2028. It's much closer before then. However, Syracuse has their non-conference game scheduled through 2027 already, so they couldn't do the same non-conference thing that we just witnessed some other ACC teams do because of how big their conference has gotten. So this is for sure a battle between Virginia and Syracuse before 2028, before 2027. It's got to be in the next 1 or 2 years, leading me to believe that the EA devs are predicting here that Virginia will no longer be in the ACC as soon as 2025, and they will play Syracuse as a non-conference game because they'll be in the Big Ten, which is one of the rumored spots where Virginia will go once the ACC collapses. That is exactly what this clip is telling me. So far, each of those three have been straight up predictions that are pretty much indisputable by the research. Here we have one with a little bit more interpretation. It's the throw for Quinn Ewers. It took me a while to identify the team they're playing, but it is Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt at Texas. This game doesn't happen till 2025, so that means that this is confirmation that the EA devs think that Quinn Ewers will be back in the 2025 season, and so that is a prediction. For our first one, that's a little bit more of a leap in logic, a likely prediction. I'm going to say Arch Manning has transferred by then as a result of this. I think that makes a lot of sense. Maybe he would be willing to sit behind Ewers for a season, 2 seasons, but 3 seasons? I don't think that's going to be very likely. And if you wanted to go into the full-on speculation tier, that would be maybe Arch Manning transfers to Alabama or Ole Miss, one of those teams that really wanted him. If we jump to the next little clip, there's LSU versus Texas A&M, a little clip. Can't really tell what the score is, but those teams don't play at that location until 2025, and so it's pretty minor, but Chris Hilton Jr. will return for LSU, so another very minor prediction there. Next, we get a few more juicy clips. We get Alabama with the turnover belt up 14-0 versus a blue team, as you can see on the scoreboard behind them. Upon closer inspection, I believe it's Auburn. It looks like it's most likely Auburn, and if it is, they do play at Alabama this upcoming season, and so it seems to be a prediction by EA that Bama's going to be up 14-0 versus Auburn and force a turnover, which takes us to the next tier, which is a likely prediction that, yeah, Bama probably beats Auburn in 2024, according to EA, because being up 14 and forcing a turnover early in Bryant-Denny Stadium is likely to lead to a win for the Crimson Tide. This next clip is pretty interesting. It's Pitt forcing a turnover and celebrating by dunking on their turnover hoop. I don't know. This one's pretty hard. There's a red team in the background that you can see on the scoreboard. Pitt hosts Youngstown State in 2024, but EA doesn't have FCS teams in here, so you've got to assume it's not them. It could be NC State or Louisville. They both host both of those teams in 2025, so that's realistic. Miami, Ohio in 2026 does seem the most likely with the colors, but with those players there all sticking around till 2026, it seems like a little bit more of a long shot. So I think this one is as simple as Miami forcing a turnover at home versus either NC State or Louisville. We've got a couple that are pretty exciting now because the scoreboard is a little bit more visible. This one is 2024 because it's Georgia at Alabama. That happens this year. We've got Jalen Milroe at quarterback. We've got all the Georgia players there. We see them show that Georgia gets a sack on Jalen Milroe. Georgia very clearly on the scoreboard leads 17-14 on Bama. You can't tell the quarter, but it could be the second half with the score. So that's a definitive prediction right there, that it is not the first quarter most likely. It's like into that game, Georgia's going to be up 17-14 at some point. That's the prediction by EA as a matter of fact. And then Milroe throws a pass. We actually see him throw a pass, and if you pause at the right moment, you can see downfield, there's a Georgia defender, and it looks like an Alabama receiver. I'm going to go with the next tier for this one. I think it's a almost prediction or a likely prediction. I think Milroe throws a pick on this play. Georgia has a defender right there, and I really think that he's going to step up and make that play because with Georgia's roster, they have an incredible secondary. And so if that is true, we'll go to full-blown speculation and say, hey, maybe they're predicting Georgia wins this game. And if Georgia wins that game on the road at Alabama, I think it might be a safe bet to say Georgia wins the national title in 2024. The winner of that game has won it more often than not. So that's a big stretch from that clip, but I think it's safe to say if Georgia wins at Bryant-Denny, they're going to be favored to win a national title. It could be what EA is trying to tell us. The next clip they splice with that Jalen Milroe throw. It's Travis Hunter scoring a touchdown at home versus Utah. This is 2024. That game will be played in 2024. I don't think this is telling us anything crazy. The prediction by EA is that Travis Hunter scores on Utah in 2024. You could say maybe likely prediction, Colorado's actually testing Utah, maybe upsets Utah, but I feel like that's a little bit of a stretch. We don't really see the scoreboard very well, but let me know down in the comments if you're able to see a shot I didn't see. This next one is absolutely bonkers. Illinois is shown raising this Turtle Trophy after beating Ohio State 52-42 at home. This game is in 2025. It's not this season. It's next season. So Ohio State losing to Illinois in 2025 is a prediction, probably the craziest one by these EA guys. You take it to the likely prediction. Ohio State is likely to lose at least 2 games in 2025. According to these clips, we see them getting stiff-armed from Michigan in 2025, and we see them losing to Illinois. And so if you want to take it to some speculation, maybe they're saying Ryan Day's fired by then, and the Buckeyes are kind of in shambles, kind of in struggling mode by 2025. That's at least the vibe I'm getting based on the 2 clips we see of 2025 Ohio State in this trailer. So pretty insane stuff there, pretty bold predictions for Ohio State. We then get a few shots that are just kind of too hard to really make anything out. A UCLA player, Arkansas, you can't really see who they're playing or what's happening, but we do get Wisconsin swinging that axe around, showing that they beat Minnesota in 2024. So a pretty straight up black and white prediction there. Wisconsin beats Minnesota this year. The location's right. Everything's right there. And the final one, pretty bold. Michigan hoisting what appears to be the national championship trophy at the Rose Bowl. And this one is really interesting because they already have the location for the national championship game selected for 2024 and 2025, meaning this national title for Michigan would have to be 2026 at least, if that's even where the Rose Bowl is played or where the championship is played that year. And that means Donovan Edwards is at Michigan in 2026. So he might have to get some additional eligibility or whatever. But that's a prediction that Michigan wins the national title at the Rose Bowl, most likely in 2026. And with Donovan Edwards back, we can infer Michigan likely had a great season. So if you're talking about the overarching big predictions, we can speculate that they picked Georgia to win a national title in 2024, and then we can straight up confirm Michigan's winning a national title according to EA in most likely 2026, because it's not likely that Edwards would stick around much longer after that. It'd probably be really difficult for him to get an additional eligibility from the NCAA. Some of the other big ones, the prediction of Ohio State to fall off and Virginia to change conferences and Wyoming and App State to potentially be in the same conference. So a lot of really interesting takeaways. Hopefully you didn't take this video too seriously. Obviously, I know it's a video game and these aren't necessarily predictions, but I still thought it was a really fun exercise. Let me know down in the comments if I missed something, if there's something that you saw in the trailer that you think might imply something or you interpreted in a different way. And if you enjoyed the video, let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys.